The Diamondbacks may have been the single biggest victim of injuries and selling at the deadline. No matter how you shake it, they didn't end the season the same way they started. So, what is the roster going to look like in 2026? Who will be back and who will be leaving?
You are Locked On Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up and welcome to the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, the show where we talk nothing but the D-backs Monday through Friday. Thank you so much for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen every single day. I am your host, Danon Biggs, and today we are going to be talking about all of the roster changes that happened over the course of 2025. We're going to be talking about the upcoming roster, the 2026 roster, kind of what we have so far and what we're probably going to be needing in the future during this offseason. But before we do that, let's go ahead and do a little update on that little thing going on, the playoffs, for those of you who care. By the way, speaking of, for those of you who care, I finally figured something out. And if you are just listening to this, you are going to want to really imagine stuff here, because guess what? Boom. We got ourselves graphics. We have right here a picture of the postseason as of this morning, as of late last night. Everybody basically tied it up. We have all our different teams. I guess I'll bring that back up for those of you guys who are watching. By the way, if you guys are just listening, we do post these on YouTube, and there's quite the visual element to it as well. The only one that advanced yesterday is, unfortunately, the Los Angeles Dodgers did beat the Reds 2-0. I feel like that happens a lot, where whatever team that goes to the playoffs in our place doesn't make it very far. Last year, the Braves and the Mets didn't make it very far. This year, the Reds didn't make it very far. So kind of a bummer there, because obviously we would have swept the Dodgers. We would have totally creamed them. So, whatever. But anyway, so the Dodgers are moving on. They're going to be playing the Phillies in Philadelphia. Philadelphia has the home field advantage for that. So go Phillies, I suppose. The Padres, unfortunately, tied the series with the Cubs yesterday. So they will be playing a final elimination game in San Diego. The Yankees came back and tied the game against the Red Sox, and the Guardians tied the series against the Tigers. I was really hoping for just a full-on split across the board, because I don't know when the last time that's happened. Also, this expanded playoffs has only been going on for so long, so it's likely that it would have been the first time, because I know when we went in 2023, everybody swept. So kind of fun, kind of interesting, and kind of exciting. By the way, you guys have spoken and I've heard, so thank you so much for all the suggestions on how to run things here, including the graphics. One other thing I'm just going to show you guys has nothing to do with anything, but I think it's pretty cool. One thing I'm able to do, again, if you guys are just listening, sort of apologies. I'll do my best to describe what's happening. You ready for this? Nope, not that one. Sorry. See, that's what happens when you push buttons, but that's a little sneak peek. I just showed the wrong thing. This is what I was trying to show. Look at that. Look at that. You got it's a 3D image of Chase Field, and it didn't actually do the whole thing. If it does it like this, oh, there it goes. It's this cool image of Chase Field, and I can show like the Rockies versus the Diamondbacks. It's pretty cool. It's like production value all the way through the roof here, you guys. You don't even get it. You don't even understand it if you're just listening. But if you guys are watching, then you're here on YouTube. You guys know how cool it is. Anyway, today's topic came up because of a comment, and I wanted to highlight said comment. So we're going to go ahead and talk about that, and this will lead into the main talking points of today's episode. Here we have a comment from SkullSin21. And if you guys are watching, you guys can see the graphic. Thank you. This whole season was incredibly bad for the Diamondbacks, but I just think it was because of injuries and us not really hitting the ball that much in the beginning of the season. Not really going to blame management for injuries. We traded everyone. Trading Merrill Kelly was probably the worst thing we did. So there's a lot in this comment here. But the things that I basically got out of it is kind of what I had been saying yesterday and the day before, that it, a lot of the reason I think why the Diamondbacks didn't perform as well as they were hoping they would, and probably I think it's safe to say that definitely the reason they didn't make the playoffs at all is because of the injuries and how many injuries there were and how taxing that was on the team and on everybody who we were calling up to the majors. And it made it very difficult for management and for Lavello to win games. Now, I think a good general manager, and I'm actually going to leave Torrey out of this. I think he did a really good job for what he had. But a good general manager, Mike Hazen, can not anticipate injuries, but build a lineup that has enough depth that it can take injuries. And so when you get a handful of injuries and that completely cripples the team, that's a sign that maybe the team wasn't built very well, which I think this year we stacked a lot of heavy hitters on, like Corbin Burns and everything, but we're still kind of top heavy in the sense that, like, we have a lot of people that are coming up and here in the next 2 or 3 years are going to be great, but until then we're kind of relying on, okay, well, hopefully Corbin Burns doesn't get hurt, hopefully Ketel Marte, Corbin Carroll don't get hurt, because if they do, then we're toast. And well, let's talk about that. But before we do, we're going to take a short little break. I'm trying to balance the timing of of these segments. I tend to talk for 20 minutes and then we do a break, and then I talk for another 20 minutes and then we take a break, and then I talk for like 2 minutes and then we end. So we're going to do a timely break here, and then we will be back and we'll talk about injuries and other roster changes that were made during the regular season. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you do not want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You just pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes watching football even more exciting when you got a little something riding on the action. So, what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Okay, you guys, I prepped a lot of cool graphics for this next segment. I stayed up very late last night doing this. So if it's really cool, please tell me in the comments. And if it's not really cool, just lie to me and tell me that it was really cool. Anyway, just kidding. Sort of. Okay, so the season started and already things weren't super great. I mean, Blaze Alexander was injured in spring training, but other than that, we were mostly doing okay. But, and this is going to be kind of a reminder because it was a little bit of a refresher for me as well, that that a lot of this actually happened and probably did some damage on our record. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. Look at that little graphic. So the first one injured really was Ketel Marte. He was injured on April 5th, and he ended up being on the injured list for a full month. The first month of the season, he was injured. And I remember being frustrated by that because he had a good run, like he was getting a lot of home runs. I told you I was tired because I was doing this last night. He was doing really well, and then by the time he came back, the conversation was all about like, oh well, Corbin Carroll's getting a lot of home runs, Kyle Schwarber and Shohei Ohtani, and I feel like Ketel Marte was on pace to be in that conversation, but because of this month-long injury, he kind of ended up staying out of that. And when he got injured, we called up Tim Tawa, who I had never really heard of before outside of playing Road to the Show, and was excited to see him there. And he performed very well. I was very excited. Not much more to say about him, but he was called up, and I was happy to see him. Pavin Smith, though, shortly after Ketel Marte was injured, found himself on the injured list, and he ended up being injured for 4 full months. So Pavin Smith, our main first baseman, really was completely taken off the board. And a lot of you may be thinking, oh, yeah, that's right. Pavin Smith. Forgot about that, which he had been doing actually pretty well. He was playing pretty consistently. He seemed to have gotten to a new level of his playing abilities, and then he got injured. But then after that, a few days later, AJ Puck gets injured. And he got injured on April 18th. And that was the last we saw of AJ Puck. And to this day is still injured because he had to get Tommy John surgery. And then right after that, well, not right after that, a few weeks later, we had another bullpen pitcher show up on the injured list. Justin Martinez was injured on May 1st. And it was actually a fairly short stint on the injured list for Justin Martinez. He was only on there for about 2 or 3 weeks. He was on there for 3 weeks. In the meantime, Christian Mena was called up in May to kind of fill in the bullpen a little bit more. And also notably, Jordan Lawler was called up in May and played a few weeks without getting a hit and was then sent back down. At this point, remember, Eduardo Rodriguez was in the rotation and really wasn't performing how we wanted him to in a big way. And I remember he pitched an outing, and then the next day they were like, hey, he's injured, so we're gonna set him down. So we're gonna let him, or he's not gonna pitch for the next little bit. So anyway, what am I? Oh, and Ketel Marte came off of the injury list actually before this time. I'm getting my time mixed up. So Ketel Marte is now off the injured list, and Eduardo Rodriguez joins the injured list. And he was only on there for a few weeks, I think, just to kind of take a little break. He was sent down to Reno on a rehab assignment, kind of come back, hopefully doing a little bit better. At this point, we signed Ildemaro Vargas, which he had been on the team before, but he was kind of just in limbo. We signed him, brought him in because we needed some more infielders. And then Christian Mena, who we had called up to fill in the bullpen a little bit, found himself injured. And I'm skipping around. And Corbin Burns got injured. Sorry, I've got to get my my graphics are all crazy. So if you guys are just listening to this, everything seems fine, right? So Corbin Burns and Christian Mena both get injured in the same week. So then we call up a young pitcher, Christian Montes de Oca. And in his very first game, he gets injured. Now, if you're wondering what happened to him, he is still injured. And so is Corbin Burns. And so is Christian Mena. All of these guys on this list, and so is AJ Puck, all these guys, season ending, multiple season ending, for some, season ending injuries. And it's just June. Like, it's the beginning of June. But, you know, Justin Martinez is back, so we're all good. Well, guess what? Justin Martinez gets injured again, and the same day, so is Gabby Moreno. Or not the same day, the same week. Gabby Moreno gets injured. So now we have all these pitchers who are injured, and now Gabriel Moreno is injured. Luckily, Gabriel Moreno wouldn't be injured the entire year, but he was on the injured list for 2 whole months, over 2 months. After he got injured, we signed James McCann, and shortly after signing him, we had another injury in Corbin Carroll. So Corbin Carroll got injured and was on the injured list for nearly, well, I was going to say nearly a month, a few weeks. So he was on the injured list for a few weeks. Blaze Alexander got called up to kind of fill in there for a little bit. And then after that, our new signing, Ildemaro Vargas, gets injured. And he would be injured for 2 months. So we're in June still. It's still not the All-Star break. It's not the trade deadline. We're still before all that. And we have all these injuries that you can see on this graphic here. But if you can't see it, we have Pavin Smith, who's still injured, AJ Puck, Corbin Burns, Christian Mena, Christian Montes de Oca, and Justin Martinez, who are all of those pitchers have season-ending injuries. And then Moreno, Carroll, and Vargas are all injured as well for anywhere from a few weeks to a few months. Okay, so let's keep it going. What do we have next? Well, I'll tell you what we have next. Ryan Thompson takes Corbin Carroll's place on the injured list. Corbin Carroll comes back off the injured list and is playing again, but now Ryan Thompson is injured, and he would be injured for 2 months. So all of these pitchers, our bullpen is just absolutely just strung up, and it's crazy to see all of the, it's just crazy to see. And I remember being at the time just being like, what the heck is going on? And I would love to be able to talk to somebody behind the scenes and be like, why did this happen? How are there so many injuries? But guess what? We're still not done. We call up Tommy Henry, who's a big prospect of ours and somebody who we're excited to see. He pitches a game on July 6th. And then on July 6th, he gets put on the injured list with Shelby Miller, who also pitched that day and also got injured. So it's 2 more pitchers just like that, boom, injured. It's like, okay, well, we get injured. Okay, let's call up somebody. They immediately get injured. That happens with Christian Mena, Montes de Oca. I hope I'm saying his name right. Tommy Henry. It's just, I don't really know what's going on, but a lot of these guys are out. Like it's not just like, oh, they're a little bit sore. That was the last time we saw Tommy Henry this year. That was the last time we saw Shelby Miller this year. So I don't know if any of you guys have any thoughts on that. I'd love to hear it, because it's starting to sound like, and maybe this is normal. It doesn't feel normal, but maybe this is normal. Maybe we need to compare other teams' bullpens or something and see what their injury rate is. I don't know if that's a stat that we can look at, an injury rate, but it's pretty intense. Anyway, Adrian Del Castillo gets called up shortly after on July 18th. This is shortly before the trade deadline, and then the trade deadline hits. So in July, we traded Josh Naylor for pitcher Brandon Garcia. We traded Randall Grichuk for pitcher Andrew Hoffman, among other people, but these are the notable ones. We traded Merrill Kelly for 3 pitching prospects. We traded Eugenio Suarez for Taylor Locklear, first baseman. And we traded Shelby Miller and Jordan Montgomery for essentially cash. So that depleted a lot of, and these are guys like, and it's funny going through this. I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't see Josh Naylor's list on the injured list. I didn't see Grichuk. I didn't see Kelly. I didn't see Suarez, or I guess Montgomery was injured before the season started. But these guys, I'm like, oh yeah, those guys were there, and they were like some of our only healthy, consistent guys, and now they're all gone. Which I understand why that happened. Expiring contracts. I think that was the correct move. I think most of those trades, if not all of them, are going to go down as a good and smart trade by Mike Hazen, but it definitely is like, okay, well, we're already all injured. We have all these injuries right here to my left in this beautiful graphic, and now we just got rid of a bunch of our consistent offense. So pitchers are injured, offense is getting traded away, and where do we go from here? Well, I'll tell you where we go from here. Shelby Miller comes off the, I guess I should say that. Shelby Miller comes off the injured list because he's no longer on our team. But then, that's right, Kevin Ginkel gets injured. So another one of our, not perfect, but more consistent bullpen pitchers goes onto the injured list. We picked up Nabil Crismatt from waiver, or he was designated for assignment by the Phillies. So we picked him up and added him to our bullpen to kind of fill in a little bit. We also called up Taylor Rashi and to be able to fill in that bullpen a bit more as well. Good news, Pavin Smith comes off the injured list, as well as a handful of other people. Let me see if I can remember. I didn't write these notes very well. You saw them all disappear. Actually, I can make them come back. Look at that. Isn't that fun? Sorry if you guys are just listening to this again. This is very professional. But Pavin Smith comes off the injured list. Gabriel Moreno comes off the injured list. And certainly somebody else comes off the injured list. I think it was Vargas comes off the injured list. So we get a handful of people, offense coming off the injured list. Actually, only offense. So now we just have pitchers on our injured list. There are a few more, by the way, that I didn't include on here. These are notable pitchers that at least pitched in the majors for a good amount of time. There was a lot of minor league injuries as well, prospect injuries, but these are the ones we're talking about. So all these guys are back off. Okay, let's get going. Offense, come on. Well, Pavin Smith ends up right back on the injured list, and he would stay on there for the rest of the season. We called Jordan Lawler back up, who struggled for a good amount of time until finally kind of getting his groove. And I think Jordan Lawler has kind of gotten over a real peak there, and he's a hill or whatever the saying is. And he is, I think, going to be producing a lot of offense for us and a reliable defender at third base in the 2026 season. Jorge Barosa was also called up. These are both at the end of August. So we're now in September. And then probably one of the hardest hitting injuries, at least in this half of the season, was Lourdes Gurriel Jr. getting injured on an outfield play. And he is going to be out not only for the rest of the season, but he's going to be out probably most of next season as well. So that one was a rough injury as well. Tim Tawa ends up getting called back up. And then our recent trade, Taylor Locklear, gets injured towards the end of the season on the 8th of September. The final transactions that happened in the season were calling up Philip Abner for the pitcher, Philip Abner for the bullpen, as well as Austin Pope, both of which did a very good job in their outings in the majors. Okay, so anyway, what is that all? What are we doing with all that other than just showing off the cool new graphics that I learned how to do? Well, if you look at, I mean, this is where the season kind of ended up. And actually, I guess Locklear has recently come off the injured list. He's all good now. So this graph right here, this chart that I have to my left that I will read out for everybody, are all of our current injured players. We have AJ Puck. We have Corbin Burns. We have Christian Mena. We have Christian Montes de Oca. We have Justin Martinez. We have Tommy Henry. We have Kevin Ginkel. We have Pavin Smith. And Lourdes Gurriel Jr. Most of these guys are not going to be back in the beginning of 2026. They will still be on the injured list. Specifically, Puck, Burns, I believe Mena, Martinez, and Gurriel Jr. They're just not gonna. They're still gonna be recovering. So we're still gonna be dealing with injuries come 2026. So what is our 2026 roster going to look like? I'm glad you asked, because we're actually going to talk about that right now. So stay right there. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Every day we make decisions, but on Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Playing Prize Picks is such a fun, simple way to add more excitement to football. You just pick more or less on player projections like Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley's rushing for a touchdown, and you're in the game. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. There is nothing quite like catching a baseball game live. The energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person, but actually getting tickets, that's the tough part. Queues, login screens, surprise fees, it takes all the fun out of it. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives you the advantage right back to you, the fan. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I've bought tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. So we have quite the situation with our lineup. I'm going to go through a lot of them here, and then we're going to basically determine where we're needing the most help. Because the other thing is the Diamondbacks ended the season, I mean, pretty strong, better than I expected them to. And so the team that they have of their scrappy call-ups actually is a pretty decent baseball team. And so I want to take a look at that. And also I want to address kind of, where we are, where we're missing, where we're definitely missing people. And then also where we could maybe fill in and boost this team that already is pretty decent. So let's go ahead and do that. I do have a few graphics, but not a ton. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Oh, anyway. So here is who we have as far as our pitchers in 2026. We have Ryan Nelson. Just scooch over. Ryan Nelson, Brandon Pfaadt, and Eduardo Rodriguez. This is who we had at the end of the season with Zach Gallen, Ryan Nelson, Brandon Pfaadt, Eduardo Rodriguez, and Nabil Crismatt. Crismatt was designated for assignment, and Zach Gallen is a free agent. Now, so this is who we have as of right now. So we absolutely need some new starting pitchers. Now, we do have a handful of prospects that could fit the job. We have Mitch Bratt, who we got in the trades, and we have Cole Drake, who both of these guys are in AAA. Drake, from reports, isn't quite ready for the big leagues, but both are doing pretty good numbers in Reno and will definitely be pitching games in spring training, assuming they're healthy. But whether or not they're actually ready to start on opening day, that's another question entirely. And it's also important to note that we will have Corbin Burnes likely after the All-Star break. It was originally projected that it'd be between the All-Star break and the end of the season. However, Burnes has made it sound like he is progressing quicker than expected. He's already had his surgery. He's already he's already being active and working on his rehab. And he says he's ahead of schedule and is hoping to be back by the All-Star break. So that would be phenomenal. And then at that point, we have 4, assuming these guys are all at their top form, which Ryan Nelson, Brandon Pfaadt ended fairly well. Eduardo Rodriguez ended very well. And if he can continue that into next season, then we have 3 excellent starting pitchers there. And then after the All-Star break, 4 excellent starting pitchers. So does Mike Hazen dish out and sign another starting pitcher? I think he probably does, but I don't think we're looking at like a free agent. I think we're looking at probably acquiring somebody who is kind of in the same state that Zach Gallen was in when he was in Miami. And I'm not the first one to say that. I think it was on the Luke and Wolf and Luke show that they mentioned this, but it would be really great to get some guys who are in their second or third year and they're doing pretty good, but they're still growing and they're just this close to like figuring themselves out. Kind of like what Zach Gallen was. He was doing pretty good in Miami, but then when he came here, it just kind of clicked and he became an ace, an all-star, and was incredible. Now, can we expect that from everybody? No, but acquire 2 or 3 starting pitchers. One of them's bound to kind of become that. So then you have a full rotation again without Burnes. And then by the time Burnes comes back, you kind of have figured out who's going to be good, who's not going to be good. You have a chance to try out some of your AAA guys like Bratt or Drake, and maybe one of them surprises us. Brandon Fott is pretty ahead of schedule, like as far as when he was drafted. So maybe one of these guys will prove to be in a similar boat as he was. Our bullpen, we have Ryan Thompson, we have Kevin Ginkel, who both will be good by the time, or Thompson's already good, but who should be good by the time we start up again. We'll have Andrew Saalfrank, Christian Mena should be back, Brandon Garcia, who we got at the trade deadline. We also have a young Blake Walton, who's a left-handed pitcher, and we have Bryce Jarvis, a lot of us are probably like, oh no, I don't want him. But remember, he's developing still, and I could see this being a good breakout year for him, like Justin Martinez had, and I think that if he can be consistent, he doesn't even need to be perfect, but if he can just be a reliable arm in the bullpen, that would be huge. And again, it's worth noting Martinez and potentially Puck will also be available halfway through the year. So we're going to blaze through these last couple. Catcher, we have Gabby Moreno and Adrian Del Castillo as kind of our main two guys. James McCann is a free agent. We may sign him again. I kind of liked him, and I know Torey Lovello liked him for his experience and expertise. He wasn't, and he's kind of he's older, so it's not like we can think, okay, well, he'll develop and become better offensively. I don't think if we sign him, we're signing him for his offense. I think we'd be signing him for his defense, or for his catching ability and his ability to call games. So, but that only gives us two catchers, which from our top prospects, we don't really have any top catchers, so we may want to look at signing somebody else. So maybe James McCann is the right call for that. So anyway, that'd be interesting. For our infield right now, we have Ketel Marte, Geraldo Perdomo. Obviously, they're two shortstop and second baseman. We also have Blaze Alexander, who I think will return and be on the starting roster. Jordan Lawler, I think, may make the starting roster as well. And then Tyler Locklear, who probably will have first base, will probably also be there. It would be nice if we could sign somebody, at least one other infielder, to kind of have that older veteran presence. Maybe Vargas maybe we sign him again. Maybe we sign somebody who's, kind of like a Tommy Pham or a what was it? Who was the Eduardo Escobar? Thinking, who's the third baseman? Somebody maybe for third who can switch off with Jordan Lawler, or somebody at first who could switch off with Tyler Locklear. Of course, we may have Pavin Smith again as well, so we may have that as well. We also have Tommy Troy and Tim Tawa, who would be in AAA. Tim Tawa, I think, has a good shot at making the starting roster as well. So we have a few options there. Our outfield, however, we do not have as many options. I'm surprised to see that we don't have much going for our outfield. We have Corbin Carroll, but he's kind of our only strong, outfielder, a solid outfielder. Lourdes Gurriel is definitely a strong outfielder and mainstay on the team, but he's not going to be here on opening day. He probably won't even be here at the All-Star break. So we have Alek Thomas, who has been kind of floundering a bit. I'm hoping he can pick it up, but he'll probably make this starting day roster. And then we have Jake McCarthy and Jorge Barrosa, who will probably who have a shot at making it. I think Jake McCarthy probably will, because he has the years of experience, but he's another one. Him and Thomas, I feel like they showed a lot of potential, but it hasn't been realized yet. So hopefully that something can happen there and they will bounce back and can make that. But that may be another thing as we sign a heavy hitter, somebody who's very strong on offense. Because, we lost Suarez and Naylor, and we don't really have a super mega ultra power hitter anymore. Corbin Carroll and Ketel Marte, I guess, fit the criteria for that, but I don't look at them and think, ultra mega power hitter. I see them and I think reliable multiple base or multiple base hitter type, who also hit a good amount of home runs. But anyway, that's kind of my take on where we're at right now. I think, yeah, we need starting pitchers. Our bullpen, we probably need another guy or two, at least until the All-Star break. If we trade for somebody who's on an expiring contract, maybe, and then we can get something for him at the trade deadline. I don't know. But our starting pitcher, our bullpen, and then maybe some experience in the infield or in the outfield. Either or, I think would be good. But I know that we're trying to not stretch the payroll too much this year, so I know we're going to be cutting back on payroll a little bit. So maybe something like re-signing Vargas and McCann might be the way to go. So anyway, let me know your thoughts. Be sure to follow us over on Instagram and Twitter, and we just created a TikTok account. There's nothing on there yet, but if you look up Locked On Diamondbacks, we might show up. Actually, I don't know. I think you might have to post before you show up, but we are on there. We're on YouTube as well as every other place you get your podcasts. So if you're just listening to this, once again, if you want to see the fancy graphics and my super pretty face, you can go to YouTube. And if you just want to listen, we're on all the podcast platforms. If you do want to see more of me, you can find more of my YouTube channels and projects at slackshack.tv, my website. Thank you for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen every day. For your second listen, find the all-night Locked On MLB Game Night, every game, every night until a World Series champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thank you so much, and I will see you guys tomorrow.